So now you've got the money, and now you go back and do you say, well, it's nice to know you, but I'm never contacting you again, corporation? Do you put out an ad in the newspaper? Do you talk about them on social media and tweet about them? Do you issue a press release? How do we steward you? Do we invite you back out to an event? Do we give you an end of the year report? So let's just do this by raising our hands. How many of you, after you get the check, like to see an ad with your logo in the newspaper? Okay. How many of you like to hear about social media and Facebook and get posts and all of that so that your own social media can connect to that? And so you're hyperlinking back to those people. How many of you like to be invited to an event or see in action and bring your executives out to see programs and actions that you funded? Okay, all of you. So company media, newsletters. How many of you require an end of the year report? Actually, a formal one. Formal. So if
larger grants, not...
Yes, right. So if it's a formal, and if you don't require an end of the year report, is it helpful to say, hey, I just wanted to tell you how your money was spent, and thank you again so much at the end of the year? And yes, Michelle, you were saying yes. And how many of you then look at that kind of stewardship to say, and here's why we're funding them again next year? Yes, because it's an ongoing relationship. What is the worst thing that somebody has ever done, when you've given them a grant that you go, okay, we're never doing that again? Anything? Yes, Brian.
Oh, the one that was, it says they took our logo off our website and put it all in their marketing materials and came to us and goes, hi, we've already done this, can you please fund our program? So that became a little bit of an issue. And, it was handled very diligently.
And you weren't grateful, Brian.
No, it was, again, those are, it was something that we probably would not have funded just because of the way the organization was. That just became
Okay, anything else that people did wrong or right in stewardship?
If I just add a comment to that.
Yeah.
I think what happens a lot, though, is when a commitment is actually made. So, if it's for an event that's coming up and you're down to the wire and you're dealing with your printer and you're trying to get logos, you're trying to do the right thing, in our case, I can't give you a commitment until I've gotten the full approval through our process, our internal process. So for me, it's probably better not to have our logo out there rather than to deal with the dual embarrassment of us having been listed as a sponsor and then I'm having to go back and say, well, sorry, for some reason, it didn't come through. If it works out, great. But then again, I'm not doing it for the most part from our marketing side of the business. We spend a lot of dollars on marketing. You see our name and brand all over the place every single day. This is really about that local giving. And if we give to you and we just didn't happen to get that one aspect of our logo on that particular piece of literature you're putting out, so be it. It's better than having it there and having to explain to me afterwards.
Okay.
I want to state that brand recognition is real important. For a lot of the corporations out here, we have a standard, you have a standard. Any type of advertisement you do, don't just take a snapshot off the website and copy it. Contact us. We have marketing departments. We want to make sure we get a high quality res, imagery to you. Because when it is blown up, sometimes it gets pixelated. Well, that doesn't support our brand real well. And it may look bad on you guys a little bit. So it is real important that if we do have a sponsorship, it does have logoing, it does have ads, make sure you contact us. Give us enough time. I've got compliance departments I got to deal with. I got marketing departments. There is a long process. So again, when you do these, make sure there's enough leeway for these and go through us for the logos.
Yeah. David?
I would just echo that. The logo is really very important. So we have, our portfolio of companies is wide, and we have Clorox, which is our bleach, under our laundry division, completely different ad, and logo. and I can't tell you how many times folks will just, rather than, oh, I don't want to bother you, they'll go out to the website, grab our laundry logo, which is a brand thing, and not our company logo, and it's a very different thing. So just get the logos from the appropriate people.
Okay.
Yes, I'm gonna go. True story. Just yesterday, I was having lunch with one of our colleagues, and a grant had gone out a few weeks ago, and the charity was calling in. The grant went out under anonymous, and the charity was calling to find out who the donor was. Perhaps not understanding the word anonymous very well. And they called 6 different people in the organization trying to get somebody to give up the name. Because we work on open floors with cubes, we all knew that they were just dialing the next sequential number. It was crazy. So we actually played with it at the end a little bit. Some of our donors do ask for anonymity. Last year, one of our charities that received an amazing grant found out who it was from, not through us, and published the person's name in their annual report. The person was so shocked that she removed some of her assets from us. It was not our fault. So, anonymity is important sometimes.
Okay. Good point, thank you.
I want to just key in on the feedback piece. Once you've received a grant, I think it's extremely important to let the organization know that you have followed through with what exactly you were requesting for. I can think of one in my mind right now that we allocate a certain amount to international, local, etc. And we had an international grant that came in. It was early in the year, so we only had a certain amount of our giving budget allocated to give away at that time. We gave them, I think, $750. Wasn't the full request. They followed up, let us know exactly what they did with that $750. It's an orphanage in Ghana that they're starting up, and they used it, they saved it, they added some more money, they were able to get internet that they were using to educate their teachers and do different things. And now, it wasn't another grant request, but they said, now we need computers because the only one we have is mine, and we have 3 teachers, and they can't get educated to teach the students. And they went through and they gave us pictures and description and everything. And so we had more budget at one of our next approval meetings, and we went back and approved the previous grant for more money to help them get the computers because we didn't have any other international grants applied for, and they were following up and showing us the great work they were doing with the small amount we already gave them.
So again, it goes to the relationship, the ongoing relationship. So along those lines, one thing that we just jumped over, and I know Ken has an answer for this as well, David talked a little bit about the importance of having his Rotary Club be able to volunteer. So that's sweat equity. The ability of, on National Philanthropy Day, that this corporation is able to show up at your nonprofit and build something or clean something up. How many of you look towards that as an important aspect of grant making? Can you raise your hands? Can you give us some examples? Ken, I know you had something on that.
Well, unfortunately, we're not the kind of company that does the, you send out 100 people for your event. We have done some of that. I remember several years ago with the East Bay Regional Parks, we did a trail cleanup and had 60 some odd folks out and actually working on a trail, not just picking up garbage. And they loved it, and the Parks District loved it. What we do have, though, is about a dozen organizations, employee resource groups, that in and of themselves are 501c3 organizations. A lot of them do mentoring of employees internally, but also do a lot of work out in the community. They raise their own funds that then they give as scholarships. And these organizations are open to all employees, however they have focused areas. There'll be an Asian American organization, LGBT organization, veterans, professional women's, like I said, there's about a dozen of them. And each of them have a cadre of employees that are really into community service. And again, that's another arm that we have to go to help support the community.
Okay. Any other important people for volunteering? Nadine, you want to show?
So let me just indicate again, Home started 40 years ago. So throughout those 40 years, there's been always different aspects of how the employees give and receive information about nonprofits. And for many years, there used to be a nonprofit fair. Literally, the nonprofits would come with their tabletop displays, have candy because it's around Halloween, give it out to the employees and talk about their nonprofit. We don't do that anymore. There's various reasons why we don't, and one is, again, technology. People find it very simple to use their smartphones or whatever technology advice they have in order to look up the nonprofit. But what we do internally is we focus in on our employees that volunteer at different organizations. And so throughout the campaign cycle, which again is Halloween through the first Friday in December, we focus an internal communication article about a volunteer that is giving back to the community. Inadvertently, that organization's name is always listed. We also do our very best if that organization has sister organizations that, again, do similar work. We'll highlight those at the end of the article. So if you have a volunteer that's a lab employee that you feel would like to have a little publicity at their workplace, I would suggest that you talk to them about it and have them approach me. I'm always looking for those volunteers out in their community, and I might not know them. But that is an opportunity for the volunteers to get a little bit of information about your organization out to the lab population. And we try to be very, very fair about that, but we only highlight a few people a year. But that is how we do look at our employees who are very generous and give them a little publicity for what they're doing in the community.
If you're looking for volunteers, you should really look no further than the East Bay Center for Volunteers. Executive Director Joe Loss is here today. Please go to their website. They have volunteers for everything from done in a day, stuffing envelopes, to long-term commitments, to perhaps you're seeking board members. So I encourage you to really look up the Volunteer Center of the East Bay. One other thing about seeking... one other thing I wanted to mention about seeking funding, and small funding specifically, because we were asked to sort of focus on that. There's a great organization in San Francisco called the Foundation Center. If you have not been on their website and researched it, you really should. You're selling your organization short. They list funders by area, by amounts, and have active links to application processes, etc. The foundationcenter.org is a great resource. Another East Bay-based organization is Compass Point. You should really look up compasspoint.org and see what they have to offer for small charities.
Okay, so it's 11:15. What we'd like to do now is go into some of the questions, and then we have a wrap-up question at the end. And because you guys are such a great audience, we have raffle items going to coincide with our questions. So if you have not bought a raffle ticket yet, you may do so. Christine, our lovely ladies over here, are selling raffle tickets. And then also, Genevieve has the ability, if you want to put your business card in, to be able to speak at the next Nonprofit Alliance meeting and tell your story as an organization. So if you've got your business card and you want to see Genevieve, and if you want to buy a raffle ticket, we've got some great raffle prizes up here. So let's start off first with one question that we got, and I think this is a really important question, and two people actually asked it, and I'm glad they did. And that really is the ability to provide administrative support or general operating expenses. So this came from Volunteer Center of the East Bay, as well as Hands-On Tech. And the question is, what, if any, support your organizations provide for nonprofit capacity building or general organization, which is a really hard thing to get funded? How do you get to the next level? How do you say, this isn't for program, this is so we can hire administrative support or pay our insurance or whatever? Do any of you fund that? So.
We allow a 15% administrative overhead charge that really is to be used at your discretion. So that's a way that from many funders will allow you to have some, because we understand you have to keep the heat on. And then every once in a while, we will fund an organization to improve its ability to deliver a program. We want to send our nurses to a breastfeeding education seminar. Sometimes we'll do that.
our grants go out to unrestricted, and we oftentimes encourage our donors to make that consideration. The charity knows where the money can be best spent. And unrestricted doesn't mean it's just going to go to PG&E and paper. It could mean that it will help cover program costs for important salaries or something. It's just going to go into the pool.
Anybody else in administration? Okay, here's another question, and it's a good one, and I know that, Giles, you mentioned it as well. We have a number of arts organizations here. Who's an art organization that's in our audience today? Yes, a lot. So 2 questions. One from, we have 2 questions on the arts from Valley Concert Choral as well as Pacific Chamber Symphony. Who funds the arts? How do I get a grant that's not tied to children or schools? And specifically, Marianne, for you, does Kaiser make grants to performing arts groups?
I'll say very quickly, very rarely do we do that. We did fund one of the sculptures in Franco Gagua Plaza, but that was because our headquarters is there. So we are really not your go-to funder for the arts.
Okay, so anybody else do arts?
I'll just add, it's really tough these days to fund the arts, as you all know. Particularly coming off of the economic downturn, the focus for many of our programs have been on job training programs, on lifting people from poverty. And as much as I personally feel that, the arts have got to be part of it, it's really tough to put those grants together. What I've been doing is, I've been talking to arts organizations. Unfortunately, I am looking for those connections, not necessarily to kids directly, but to programs like up in Walnut Creek. Diablo Regional Arts Association has an arts access program. So for kids as well as seniors, low-income folks, giving them access to the arts through free or reduced tickets. Another opportunity, as I said, we have thousands of employees here in the Bay Area. We do have an internal program that provides for employees' contributions, their gifts to the arts. Arts and culture is one of the few areas we have where we have a matching program for employees. So they can't match like their purchase of gifts for your performances, but if they are giving a donation to your organization, they could very well qualify for a match from the company for that type of gift.
That's a really important point we missed. How many of you corporate folks have matching programs? Okay, employee makes a gift, you go and send in an application, the corporation matches it. Free money, folks, free money. So if you should be talking to see who your donors are and where they work. And there is an extensive list that's available usually on many philanthropy websites of all the corporations that match. Nadine, did you want to say something?
I did. I wanted to indicate this goes back to when you're thinking about applying. Think about the context of who's going to be reviewing that application and maybe what your needs are. For example, an arts organization, the Valley Dance Theater that puts on the annual Nutcracker here on this stage, made an application through the corporate giving program, not to be funded for putting on the Nutcracker per se, but putting on the Nutcracker for Title I school students. They were funded because we support education. We like the idea of that. So again, maybe tweaking your application to the organization that may fund it. So think through a little bit ahead of time of what may resonate with them, what is their context. And that is one aspect of giving to the arts. Think about how it can apply to the organization. And I definitely need to indicate that many of the arts organizations in our community were started by laboratory employees. And they continue to this day because of the generosity of the Home Campaign. And those organizations, without a doubt, I think every single one within our community is funded through the employees to this day. So again, helping others more effectively, the Employee Giving Campaign does give to arts organizations.
James, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just back actually on the arts question, and actually a little bit broader than that. We have funded arts organizations in the past, like Ken, I think with the downturn in the economy, that's not been our focus for the last couple of years. It's our intent though, as we build our fund back up, that we would be funding arts organizations again. But with that said, one of the other things that we absolutely will provide today, and this is true for any organization, is free publicity. And we actually have a really, really good outreach and communications arm. We have thousands and thousands of connections, both through conventional and social media, which we are more than willing to use to help promote your particular program, promote fundraising opportunities and other types of things to help get businesses and other people connected with your efforts.
All right, so.
Yeah, I just want to also say that we do also do the arts programs. We've done sponsorship for seasons, concert series, season sponsorships, Day at the Park sponsors, season sponsorships. We've done replacements of pianos, trombones, type of environment. We've also helped with art galleries with lighting. A lot of times the light bulbs will need to be replaced or new lighting systems will have to go in. So those are how we've also helped out with the arts performances.
And we also support the arts as well, in similar ways that maybe you mentioned.
Okay, so good. So let's do our first raffle, and it's just a coincidence that it happens to be a Sunflower Hill basket. So the ticket number is 379895. Angie has it. Who has the winning ticket for that? 379895. Yay! Good job. Thank you. So along those lines of arts, we also have a number of religious organizations here. How many here are religious-based organizations? You know, we have one up there, so this must be your question. So that's often a hard thing because many corporations do not fund religious-based organizations, yet they're doing remarkable work in the community and having a lot of collaborations. Any one of you have advice for the religious organizations that are making an impact and need money? Nichelle?
The way that we support religious organizations would be through our employee giving program. We have a pretty wide funding area, so we support nonprofit organizations that are employees, that are important to our employees. So religious organizations happen to be one of those areas. And so if our employee wants to support, make a donation through our matching program, we will support that.
Okay, great. And our next prize is from Tri-Valley Haven. Thank you, Christine. And the winning number is 379827. 379827. Yay! Congratulations. Okay. So, yes, Miriam, please do.
Okay, so in the little brochure that hopefully most of you have, there's a panel that says Kaiser Permanente cannot consider funding requests from. And within that paragraph, you'll see religious organizations for religious purposes. Okay. So that a faith organization could ask us for money to sponsor a community forum on how to get health care benefits. We surely consider that. But we would not sponsor their Sunday school for their members.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I was going to just say many of our donors do fund faith organizations in the Tri-Valley. Just looking at the list, Catholic Community of Pleasanton, Community Presbyterian Church, we've got Linwood United, Messiah Lutheran, so it goes on and on. So they do make grants to those charities.
I think a lot of it is too, is what does he need? You know, gym floors, is it, you know, wheelchair ramps? Those are the type of items that we'll consider.
Okay, and I've just learned that we have a new attendee here from Assemblymember Catherine Baker's office. Derek Weber is here. Derek, where are you? Thank you for joining us. Thank you. We appreciate that. Thanks for coming. Appreciate the Assemblymember's support as well. Okay, so we answered one of these questions kind of already, and that is in terms of mid-year updates and requirements and how people want to hear back from you when after you get or hear back. You want to hear back from them. But one of the things that came up also was that capital campaign. And I know you've talked about funding, Kaiser funding some capital campaign, Tri-Valley, Hacienda Helping Hands as well. What advice do you have for people who really need capital money? Where would they go? Anyone?
Lunch. And seriously, on capital campaigns, it's going to be a conversation. I think a lot of it is going to be around, what is it, how much you're looking for, who is on the capital campaign committee, who is your starters, where you're at, what's the future. There's a lot of determination that goes on that one. Then it could be a multi-year type of grant. How long do you need this? What's the program? There is a gamut of questions that need to go through it. As a banker, we kind of it was like a loan application almost. It's that detailed. We want to get into the numbers routines. What is your projected, funding sources? Where are you going to get them from? Because I can't do the whole thing as much as I'd love to. I can't. But who else are you looking at? Who is your contact list? So really it is. You want to get started on a capital campaign with us, it's good lunch.
Okay. Jazz, you had something quick?
A lot of our donor advised funds and corporate advised funds do go for capital campaigns. One of the problems we have with people who want to do that capital granting is that they go ahead and pledge that they're going to make a grant. People cannot pledge to give away our money. Once they've given us the money, it's technically ours. So we ask them to please not commit to a pledge, to simply request the grant for the Capitol building. And we make a lot of grants for capital.
Good. Okay, great. Our next is a movie ticket. So if you have this number, 379-803, you're going to the movies. Oh, good job for you. Okay, two questions on kind of what you're looking for. I think some of you have answered this before, but if one of you or two of you could kind of readdress it. This question is, you have said that when you go to a nonprofit's website, to check out that nonprofit as part of your grant process, what specifically do you look for on a nonprofit's website? So you looked them up in GuideStar, they look okay, some of you go to their website. What is it? What are you looking for? Who wants to answer that? Okay.
So for us, when we go to the website, we're going to be, we're looking at your programs, mission statements, really the development of the website. What does it really look like? The board members that you have, what type of bios do you have of the agencies of your group that's involved? Who is involved? I mean, it's a key thing for it is, who do you have involved? Who is on your board? What type of bios do they have? Your board members, again, bios of the board members that are out there, your program, your mission development, information that's out there. We do a lot on the GuideStar. If we do go to GuideStar, we do pull your 990s. Okay? That's the first thing that we do. First, we want to validate that for us, it's got to be a public 501c3 versus a private 501c3. For us, we want to make sure it's valid, it's out there. We want to look at when's your last tax returns are done. Are you on time? What is your time returns on it? We will look through the financing aspect through GuideStar, and we will talk to you. Depending on the size of the grant, we may actually want to get into profit and loss statements. It just depends on the size. But most of the time when we look at your website, it's really going to be, it says a lot about your agency. If it looks sloppy, then sometimes that may be a reflection on the agency, but it looks clean, nice, information's out there. A lot of our advisors want to know more about it, so hopefully a story is out there. If it's a nonprofit that has a founding member who's, because it's for the cause, what is their story? Is it well stated? So there's a lot of information to be had on your website that we do look at and review as we're going through the application process.
That's a great answer, and I think just to add to that, when I was giving away money as well, I looked to see if it was consistent. In other words, if what is in your application is the same thing that's on your website, is it a consistent application? And I think to Brian's point as well, if you're sending in some of the typos, it's unprofessional, that is a reflection on your organization. So it has to be professional and appropriate as part of that. Okay, we have wine and chocolate. What could be better than that? 379-859. 379-859. Rex, you got it. Good job. David, this is a question, and I know many of you are involved in other Rotary clubs as well, but a question came up, obviously, Pleasanton North Rotary is doing remarkable things, but there are 2 clubs here in Livermore, there are 3 clubs in Pleasanton, there's a club in Dublin. Could you talk about what the other clubs do, just briefly, and some of you can chime in as well, Nadine and James, about, do all clubs give away money? Do all Rotary clubs have mini grants?
I think the first thing there is not every Rotary Club has a 501c3. And so they do not necessarily do a lot of the financial giving, but most of them will do a significant amount of sweat equity volunteering. Like the Livermore clubs, I believe, and Nadine can confirm, they share a foundation. And so they are joint with that. Whereas we have our own foundation, the Pleasanton Downtown Rotary Club has their own foundation. So it varies. There's not going to be one set of circumstances for all Rotary clubs. So it's going to vary, and I would encourage you, if you have a specific club where you have relationships or whatnot, just ask the questions, find out what causes they support, how they give, if it's joint between two clubs, how that dynamic works. And if they have their own foundations, they may have different dynamics that you want to know as you're tailoring a grant to that foundation.
Okay, great. Next ticket number, this is for jams and cookies. Christine has it. 379734. 379734. Yay! Is that you, Carolyn? No, you won. Take it. Take it, my dear. Okay. Can't do that. No getting back. All right. One of the questions that came in, this is a good one. We do have some private foundations here, and sometimes it's hard when you're a private foundation because you're giving away money, but you're hoping you're going to get money from the corporations to re-give away that money. How many of you fund private foundations that may then re-give that money away? Even a little bit? No? Ken?
One thing that I have done is when a private foundation has a program that they're running, I will look at that program. But for most of my funding, we can't just give money that's then going to be turned around and be re-gifted.
Any advice for them as to how they can give money?
I think the problem is you also have to be careful as a private foundation. If you get too many outside people funding you, you could lose your private status. So that's one of the reasons why we don't get that too often of private foundations asking, because it can disrupt their own personal 501 status.
But Giles, I would imagine you give away some money to private foundations through your donor advised funds, wouldn't they?
No.
They would not.
No, private foundations, it has to be a 501c3.
But okay, so Pedrosi is a 501c3.
If a donor wanted to make a grant to Pedrosi, they could.
Okay.
But
even though Pedrosi is re-giving away that money. So let's clarify that. So if you have an organization that is re-giving your money away through a scholarship, is that okay?
Yes, if our donor requests it.
Okay. That's your question. Okay, great.
It probably wouldn't be our money. Our endowment.
Your money, your personal money.
It would be donor money.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Nadine, did you want to add anything to that?
I did. I wanted to indicate, again, I'm talking about home, helping others more effectively, the employee giving campaign. Many times an employee will say, I just moved to the Tri-Valley. I don't know where I want to give, but I want to give. And they'll do their research, and they will choose a community foundation to give their money to because they trust that the community foundation is doing their due diligence and giving it to where it's a worthy cause. So we don't necessarily do exactly how you answered the question or asked the question, but our employees do look to these community foundations or private foundations to do good work. And they do. We have wonderful nonprofits in our community.
Okay, great.
And people acknowledge that.
So this is a good prize. This is the picnic basket. 379927. 379927. Who has that? Oh, you have to be here to win. So 379927. No one? Oh, yay! Great. Okay, Nadine, I know you already talked about this, but I want you to just answer this question. Really, just go over quickly again. For the Lab Home campaign, Does it have to be an employee deduction? And talk again just to how Lynn's does the matching funds.
Okay, sure. Absolutely. It has to be an employee that wants to give money. That's the only money that we have available for you to receive your funds, is through the employee. So an employee is making a donation to you. I shouldn't have said only, because Lynn's, the management company, has $1 million, and they prorate it over those donations. Okay, so does that make sense? So it's not the first $1 million that's pledged by the employees gets a one-for-one match. It's prorated so that every donation receives a little bit of that $1 million. But the only way you can receive any of that money is through an employee. So hopefully I clarified that.
Good. Okay, we have tickets to the Bankhead. Thank you so much. And so here we go, 379-833. 379-833. Who got that? Yay! Volunteer Center! Thank you, good job. Okay, and we're gonna do one more here. This is looks like it's a lovely English breakfast basket, and that number is 379-731. 379-731. Who has that? 379-731. No? Okay, I'll choose another one. So how about 379-840? Yay! Good. And last. All right. Is that raffle? No. Okay. So one of the things that we are going to do now is just kind of, I think, do a quick summary. You guys have been great for the last hour and a half, and I think we've hopefully answered all of the questions that you have. I'd like to do rapid fire deal. What is the one thing that they need to hear from you today? If they remember nothing else about applying for a grant, what should they do and what should they not do? One thing to remember, what should they do and what should they not do? And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to, it is a raffle prize, that's okay, we're going to do that, and we're also going to select who gets to speak at the next one. And, Paula Bankhead, Dennis Bridges, from Development Officer from Bankhead. Where are you, Dennis? Denise, I'm sorry, I read it wrong. Denise, David, great, good job. So we will hear from you next time and hear your good report that we know is occurring with the Bankhead. All right, one more raffle ticket item, and these, I believe, are cookies. Are they not cookies, Carolyn? Okay, the number is 379-783. 379, yay, good job. Okay, so rapid fire. James, what do people need to remember and not remember?
Oh, all right. So the thing to remember is we are really interested in engaging with you. I think please do contact us. Like I said, the answer can't always be yes on funding, but we want to work with all of the community organizations in the Tri-Valley and find a way to partner with you. I can't think of anything not to do at this point.
Good, good. Okay. Rapid fire, David.
I think for the Pleasanton North Rotary Foundation, like James said, we want to partner with you. We want to partner with the community. And in order for us to do that, articulate that value proposition, how you help others, how you're going to use those funds, and continuously seek feedback so you can improve your grant applications and how you're specifically using those dollars. And then I would say the last thing is help others get involved in things. And they're going to want to help you, and they're going to give you ideas of who you can get funds from or where you may apply to and who those contact people are so that you can convey your message other than just on paper.
Nadine.
Again, I just want to reiterate, helping others more effectively is the employee giving campaign. So if you remember anything, those 6,000 employees are very generous. Over $3.4 million was given out to the community last year. 2.4 was from the employees, $1 million through the Lynn's, our management company, which is also very generous, not only with $1 million, but for the $100,000 that they give out through grants. It's a simple application process. So please meet an employee, talk to them about your organization, and fill out a simple application process, our application this summer, and hopefully you will receive some monies. Thank you.
Okay. Jazz?
Hi, three points. First of all, congratulations on everything that you're doing to help the community. It is inspiring, and I wish we could have introduced everybody and known where you were from, but we did see the list. Second of all, I encourage everyone to do your research. Really, that's the key to any of this, is to find your funding, do the research. The web is an amazing tool, can tell you really where you want to go. And finally, I'm going to give you a number. The number is 1961, 1,961. That is the number of nonprofits listed in the 5-city Tri-Valley area. Almost 2,000 nonprofits, and each and every one of them, from the $500 a year to the $5 million or $20 million, are all seeking donors and seeking funding. So you understand how many of you are all chasing sometimes the same rabbit. I say this to also encourage you to do this. I know everyone in this room from the Bay Area, we're all type A's and we all think we can solve the world's problems. And so we're going to go out and start a nonprofit. Before you do that, please find out who else is doing similar work. Perhaps get on their board, make a donation to them, go do a site tour with them, and see if they're doing work similar enough to what you want to do that you can actually get on board with them and help them and build that power together rather than restart a new nonprofit to do the same thing, because you're going to be chasing the same dollars. So 1,961 nonprofits out there would love your passion, would love your energy. Maybe you find one that's a great fit for you, and together you can do even more.
Wow, what he said. For Kaiser Permanente, remember that we have very specific funding priorities. Our funding for 2015 actually will shortly be done. I have a decision-making meeting later early next week. So we're not really your best targets for 2015, except for Get to Know Us, which we absolutely welcome. I'm holding up this brochure because the email address is at the bottom of this address, Diablo Area Community Benefit at kp.org. That's a great way to make an inquiry about could you get together with us to tell us more.
So actually, I'm just going to add to that, Marianne, because we did have somebody say, some of you offered to give out your emails, and they don't have your emails. So those people who are interested in some of our specific speakers, I would encourage you, because you are now stewarding. So it's not just enough to get an email. You're going to come up here afterwards, and you're going to introduce yourself, and you're going to give them your card, right? Because it's about establishing that relationship. And if they have corporate email addresses like Marianne does, she can give you that corporate email address, and they can tell you the best way to get in touch with them. So, good. Ken?
So, something has already been said about doing research. Not just AT&T, but any funder. Know who you're going to speak to and know what it is that they do. So if you come to one of us and there's just no nexus between what we do and you do, you need to know that in advance. And also have a sense through review of our website, what it is that, where our focus areas are and the types of things that we generally look at. Because you're saving yourself time as well as us. And saving one of those no's, one of those rejections that can be turned into a positive, with the right organization.
Michelle?
Everything they said times 2. And know that when we say no, or if the answer turns out to be no, it's not personal. It's not that what you're doing isn't important. It's just that all of us have a focus area and a fit, or an area that we focus on and have a responsibility to the charter of our foundations that we have to follow, just in the same way that each of you have focus areas that you do. We have the same, and respect that.
Same thing times 3. I think the primary one is I'm going to do it as you've heard it multiple times, research, and research. Pull up our 990s, go on GuideStar, look at it, we're public, you have to see what we're doing. It will list all of our grants are in those 990s. It will tell you who we've given to, how much, and what was the purpose for them. So if I was sitting on your board, I was saying, are you doing that? Because that will give you the dollar range that those agencies are doing. what type of funding they've been doing. Because the one thing you don't want to do is to ask something that's way outside of their normal giving range. So those are really key important. Do your research, look at the 990s. Don't pull last year's, pull the last 3 years. Get a sense of what type of consistencies they're doing. Look for maybe a first-time grant, maybe less than one that they've been doing after 10 years. What type of relationship have they built with us? So those are scaled. The one thing I would say do not do, send a letter that says, "Dear grant applicant, dear grant administrator, to whom it may concern." Those are very quickly. I also like to get, if on the grant request, it's a personal letter, not necessarily one of your key letters that you just turn out to everybody. You're asking for money, and make it as much personal as you can.
Good advice. We had one late question come in, and I think you guys will not disagree with me on this answer, but if you do have a point, please do. This question was, do you need a professional grant writer, or should we take a class on grant writing to receive a grant? And I would argue that if you're a great writer and can write a great grant, that's great. But if you aren't, and you should hire a grant writer to make your grant be great, you should do so. Do you all agree?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, last question here. Do sponsorship levels matter to funders, specifically the types of thank you? So for example, at the king level, you get 2 free tickets, you get a table, you get da-da-da. Does any of that matter? Do you care? You care about the cause. Yes, Brian?
Yeah. We do look at your sponsorship levels. And the one thing that I love of the most is when it goes, their top sponsor is 10,000 or more. I don't think you're going to get the or more part. Most of them are going to give the dollars listed out. The other one we're looking at is, if you got a $10,000 sponsorship and your one below it is at $75,000 and it's 7,500, excuse me. And the only difference was I get a full-size ad versus a half-page ad. I don't think I'm going to go to the next level up. So really look at how are you building your sponsorship levels. Is there an added value for us to be there? What are we gaining out of that? So really pay attention to how you're building sponsorship levels, because we're going to look at them, and it may be a great cause, but I've also got 350 nonprofits, all great causes. I've got a limited amount of funds, and I'm going to stretch it as far as I can go. So really, really pay attention to how you're building your levels.
Giles.
There was once a picture up on my wall that said, fundraising is a process, not an event. If you spend 9 months of your year working on the gala and you raise $100,000, I would challenge you to have 1 meeting per month with a qualified donor that you've researched and ask for 1 gift of $10,000. And each of those meetings, if they're successful, will get the same thing as spending your entire year planning the gala. Fundraising is a process. It's about individual relationships. It's about one-on-one asking. If you're not the right person to ask, is it someone on your board? Is it another peer to the person you're asking? Think about all these things in your process of going after assets, at fundraising.
Good point. Ken?
One of the things I'd add is, my organization has gone back and forth. For a few years, we would only fund programs and not do sponsorships. And I know that hurts the organization too, because you are putting time into those events. I gotta tell you though, as a grant maker, it really bothers me when I have to go into my internal process and I'm filling in my forms for my final approvals, and I'm having to differentiate how much is going to a 501c3 as opposed to how much is being identified as entertainment. So when I show up at your event, that's money off the top, that's supporting your event, but it's not supporting your cause directly. And I recognize there's other things, having some of our names up there as sponsors helps bring in others as well. But it is money off the top. And particularly the larger galas, when I'm seeing more going to that entertainment pot than is going to the cause itself, those are the ones, quite frankly, I shy away from for the most part. I'd rather sit down with you, talk about the program, and make sure as many of my dollars are going to support your client base as possible.
So that's about all the time we have left for today. So I would like to leave you with just a few things. First of all, I want to thank our volunteers in addition to our executive board. We had great volunteers that check in and checking in here, so please give a round of applause. And you know, we've heard some great things from our panelists. I think Giles said something at the very end, which was really true. You know, philanthropy is also about the ability to ask, and you're not going to get unless you ask. And sometimes that's the hardest thing for us, is to actually ask somebody to support us and to make a donation. But I think our panelists here today have kind of helped us walk through the process. You know, Ralph Waldo Emerson once said it was important to, quote, find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child or a garden patch, to know that even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. It is because of you, our nonprofits here today, that we are succeeding. Our community is succeeding. And I think the partnership with our organizations, both corporate and our individual foundations, is really what makes that collaboration work. So please join me on thanking all of our panelists here. Joining us, and I would encourage you to come up and start the stewardship process now. So thank you.